Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, and other amoebas. We welcome you this morning to Imola in Italy, to the AOR Endurance Championship Season 4, our opening round 9 hours here at the famed circuit. And we will start off by introducing ourselves. Myself, Brayden Hill, up in the broadcast studio alongside Niclas Domino. Nick, how you doing this morning?
Into the box. It's Saturdays, hot outside, and cars, great weather. This is gonna be amazing.
Absolutely, and what better circuit is there to start off an endurance championship than Imola, a relatively new addition to the Assetto Corsa Competizione roster, alongside several new cars. And we'll start off today's broadcast by doing a bit of a track walk for you here. So, here at Imola, the famed circuit, we have quite a few challenging twists and turns. They start off the start-finish line to go into the Variante Tamburello, then into the Villeneuve chicane, quickly into the fast left-hander of Tosa, come back around to Acqua Minerale, back up to the very tight chicane Variante Alta, as well as at the end of our lap Ravazza. And this is going to be an interesting one. I certainly foresee us having quite a bit of action, especially at Variante Alta, and Acqua Minerale is one we can certainly expect many drivers to make mistakes at. Nick, for you, where do you expect that we will see the most trouble for these drivers?
Yeah, as you said, Variante Alta with the chicane, the huge curves on the inside on this track they're so unforgivable. If you hit them wrong, you will punish the car, and you also risk the car getting unstable and spinning off, or you can get off and get off tracks, and if you get too many off tracks, then you will get penalties. So people need to be fast, but also try and control that chicane, and people have different places where they brake and accelerate out of the chicane, but also into turn 1. That's the primary overtaking spot on this track with the GT3.
Absolutely.
You need to get an extremely good exit out of Variante Alta and into the two final left corners, and then to the straight. That's where we will see the most action.
Absolutely. Another place that I expect to see a lot of challenges is at turn 9, Piratella, the vast left-hander after Tosa. A lot of these cars, I would even namely say the Ferrari 296, are very aerodynamically dependent. So when you're in a long train of cars and you're not getting a lot of air on the nose of that vehicle, it can be incredibly difficult to get any sort of grip. And as we do mention those things, cars are being released now to go to our Superpole session. And so, first car out here is one of our Tier 2 drivers. It is worth noting that this is actually a Tier 1, Tier 2 combined session. Of course, we can't have absolutely everybody in one race all at the same time, so we do divide it into 2 tiers. So, first out onto the track, the number 24 car. Nick, why don't you get us started off?
Yeah, so it's Richard out there in the Ferrari, and he's just now trying to get a little bit of heat into those tires. This is the new Ferrari as well. The new mid-engine Ferrari that they have just released, and it's gonna be exciting to see the BOP about this car, and people trying to see how they get with the setups and everything like that. It's important to really get great grip into these tires. This is, as we have seen in also people are talking in the chat, this is a great hot lap in circuit. Racing is gonna be tricky, so where you qualify is gonna be so important. And a lot of these drivers in the Ferrari especially have had not too much practice in this particular car, because it's so new to the service. And as we see him just coming up to the Variante Alta, there we see the big curves, and he's just destroying the car over those. It's so, but if you get it through there fast, you know, it's unpleasant.
Absolutely, and we did spend some time in the last 2 weeks testing each of these cars and kind of trying to understand their characteristics so that we could be better informed up here in the broadcast booth. And one of the things that I think we both agreed on was that the Ferrari of all the cars was one of the most sensitive coming over any sort of bumps, any sort of curves. Any sort of curbs, those big sausage curbs especially are of note in the Variante Alta chicane. As we see the 24 car starting his hot lap and heading quickly into turn 1 towards the Tamburello chicane. But to get back to that, one of the cars that we did mention was actually really good at soaking up those curbs was the Aston Martin Vantage as well as the BMW M4 GT3. So as it pertains to a hot lap, I think we would maybe agree that the Ferrari is probably one of the best. But when it comes to surviving 9 hours, Nick, what do you think is going to be the car to beat?
I think the Mercedes are really, you know, it's easy to drive. It's understeer and it feels like a boat, but it's forgiven. The Aston Martin as well, but as we can see, you know, and we don't have too many Astons in here, so the BMW also felt quite strong. So I think those, you know, heavy front end or heavy, you know, the front engine cars, I think are around here the ones that will be the easiest to drive. Is just, let's see, oh, a lot of curb there and just getting really wide out of the chicane. Let's hope that he's not getting an off track there. It has been a nice tidy lap that he's put out here, which is in the GMR LV red car. We do apologize, some of the cars maybe have skins, but we have had a little bit of issues maybe seeing them all, and he's just getting right nice tidy up to the wall, and that's a 141.5 provisional pole so far.
Yes, sir. Well, when you're the one car going out, it does typically result in that, to be fair. So he will go ahead and reset to the pits, and we turn our attention to Majez, if that's how you pronounce that. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that last name, but we can, in fact, see the livery on this BMW M4 GT3. And with this livery, quite turquoise or mint-colored, I would argue. But let's talk about the M4 GT3. It's been a very popular pick. I believe there's about 13 teams in the Tier 1 division that have selected it. What would you describe the driving characteristics as in this particular car, Nick?
It's just really predictable when you're driving it around. It's good at the curbs, as we just see him really dominating those curbs through the first 2 chicanes. You need to be strong in there, and it's just drivable. It's easy and drivable. That's for me is one of the biggest advantages of that car right there. It doesn't sound the greatest, but that we have 9 hours to talk about the sound of these cars. But it just, yeah, it's just strong all around. It's a good all around car, and but this is also the Racing Alcoholics. So that's going to be interesting to see if they are going to be sober at the end of the race as well.
Ooh, a little bit of a moment there coming out of the Acqua Minerale chicane. A little bit of a moment, goes up to the outside of the track, but I don't believe he got an off track there, so he should still be good. This should still be a valid lap, and you can see just how good the BMW is at soaking up those curbs in the Variante Alta. But I certainly expect to see a slightly slower lap here from the number 20, for the number 340 rather, BMW M4.
Yeah, it doesn't look as fast, but you know, sometimes when it doesn't look fast, it sometimes are fast. But let's see, and he's not taking the tactic of just hogging that inside wall, and let's see what it becomes, a 143.3. So he has not had a good lap there. I think he lost a lot at the bottom of the chicane there.
Alright, now we change our attention here to our first Lamborghini of the session. This is Barry Blackberry in the number 81 Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2, another one of the new cars to the ACC roster. And we spent a lot of time in this car, or I at least did, and this car is surprisingly stable, considering it's not front-engined, it's not an absolute heifer like we know the AMG or the BMW or the Lexus, for example, to be. However, it still has quite a lot of speed, and is really quite stable to drive. And when we're talking about a 9-hour race, it's great to be able to run one lap fast, but the real question becomes, can you actually pull off 9 hours of racing around other cars, around other drivers, without causing any sort of issue with those other drivers, contact, whatever have you, because it does not matter if you got the fastest car on track. If you're in a wall, you're not going to have a very good time over this 9 hours.
Oh, definitely not. But also, it's very satisfying to drive because it's mid-engine, so the front is not. Let's just see how he takes the curbs here. Ooh. A little bit more nervous around there, but great through the chicane. But yeah, you can just point the front to where you want it, and then the rest of the car turns around with it. So that's really what these cars provide you with. It's a bit more of an aggressive driving style. So driving style suits different cars, and interesting to see if he can get into professional pole or not at the moment. Let's see.
Not quite.
Not quite. 1.1 second, and these times are actually a bit slower than what we saw. Really.
True, but these are our Tier 2 drivers, so it would make sense that they are going to be a little bit on the slower side by comparison to our Tier 1 drivers. We now see the Audi driving by. This is... Who is this we're looking at? This is the number 88 car, currently being driven by Subham Das. So, we see our first Audi. This is going to be pretty similar. It's going to be interesting to see how this holds up against the Lamborghini we just saw, since they do share a chassis, at least in the real-life version. So this is going to be an interesting lap. The Audi we spent a little bit less time in, but when we did, I died immediately. Talk me through that.
Oh, you died immediately. I've actually raced this car around. I had one race around Paul Ricard for quite a extended race, and it was quite stable. You had to dial it back a little bit, but once it was there, it was quick, fast. A lot like the Lambo actually. It's really interesting, aggressive on the front. And he's actually posting the Team WRT livery on there. It's a great looking car, by the way.
Absolutely.
But they are really I think they're also actually using the same engine, so it's almost the same car. Oh, as he's getting a bit wide there through the chicane, that he will lose a ton of time on, because he wouldn't be able to get on the throttle as fast as he wanted. So that's not a great time through the chicane. But let's see if he can actually go in there and push that time a little bit, because as we have seen, there's quite a big gap between P1 and P2 at the moment in the Silver Cup, although I don't think we will see that throughout the race in Tier 2.
Absolutely, and not quite second place. That's going to be 141.850. So almost exactly 0.3 of a second the difference there. And I gotta say, that 24 car's lap was really quite good. Set purple sectors in every single sector thus far. Nobody has been able to top him. As we now look at the Aston Martin, this is Dan Bernard here in the 177 car. He is going to come across the line to take checkered flag for his lap here. Comes across the line. Actually, that is to take his lap. I apologize. So
yeah, that's
he
to
was
take his
just
lap.
finishing. That was taking the green flag rather on his lap. I stand corrected. And the Aston Martin I mean, this is just the everyman's car of Assetto Corsa Competizione. If you are a newcomer to the service, if you don't know a track, this is the car to be in. I don't think that much of anyone can make an argument otherwise because of just how good of an all-around car it is. It's easy to drive fast. It's hard to wreck. I say that. It's really in relativity when you compare it to the Ferrari.
We can break
so,
you and I, you know.
Oh yes, that's why we talk. That's why we talk. As we see him now shoving that car down that steep hill into Aqua Minerale. Let's see how good. Oh, that just looks so stable. It doesn't even look like he's. It just looks like there's no effort in this car. I don't think there's any car that looks more effortless to drive on the service. So. Now, and even on the bumps, look at that, just completely unfazed by those bumps. Now, sometimes stability can be a mask for being slow, can look to the eye like it's just stable, but it could be slow. But we're about to find out here as he comes around turn 18 in Vervatza. Going to come down our Variante Bassa straightaway. Let's see whether or not he's able to take the throne here and take P1.
Well, that's close with only 32 thousandths of a second off there.
And it's interesting to note, all the time he lost was actually in Sector 3. He has set a purple Sector 1 and Sector 2 has Dan Barnard in the 177. We now see our second BMW of the day here. This is Mike in the 147. Mike Bradakis, currently going to be... Yeah, this is another one of our silver cars, so he has taken the green flag for his lap. I was just taking a look at the lap from Dan Bernard on our leaderboard. But now let's turn our attention here to the driver at hand. Another BMW.
Getting a bit wide there. Yeah, another BMW. Let's see if he can actually get... Oh, he's getting deep into the hairpin there. It's definitely... It doesn't look as tidy as what we've seen some of the other laps. He looks to be fighting the car a bit more, going deeper into the corners. Ooh, getting a bit out there. But right down here, this is the most tricky braking point you will have on this track. You're going downhill and you're braking at the same time, and you don't want to brake too hard because then the rear end will go out, and if you brake too late, then the front end will go away. It's such a difficult one. Oh, the chicane he nails. Just a little bit of a wiggle out there.
That was great.
Yeah, but just a little bit of a wiggle on the exit there, so he might lose a bit of time down to the last two corners just to see what. Oh, it's. I think he might be just looking to try and see if he can get this done and dusted, so he won't be last. As again, you know, these are the top 10 drivers in the. That has been qualifying throughout the session. Let's see. Oh, he will be P4 at the moment. P4.
So, I think that is our second BMW outside of the top 3 there, as we now turn our attention to the lovely pink, blue, and white BWT livery on the AMG Mercedes of Andre Verona. The number 402 car going to take a green flag for his lap. This is our first AMG of the session, and you, of course, had this AMG as your pick to win. So what makes the AMG so stable? Is it just that it's such a consistent platform? I mean, the car, other than the front end in the most recent update, really has not changed a whole lot. So the guys over at AMG Motorsport have really had quite a lot of time to, shall we say, perfect or really massage out anything in this car to make an incredibly stable platform. Do you think that's the biggest factor in why this is such a great all-around car, both in simulation and in real life?
It's just a boat. Ooh, he's getting a bit wide there. It's the huge engine out in the front. You know, it is just a missile down the straights. This AMG, as he's really struggling with it. The only downside for the AMG with the way they have put it now is that it's really difficult. It really understeers a lot, and so you have to be driving it a lot more since he just had a bit of a wiggle out of the chicane there.
I mean, you saw how much curb he took on the
Yeah.
first of the 2 chicanes, turn 14.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a
So
lick.
it does eat curbs, and with that grill, it kind of needs to eat everything.
She do be hungry. Ooh, that's
she
a
do be
little
hungry?
close.
Yeah. But this is the same engine as in the Aston Martin, so that's actually a bit interesting as well. And they're destroying that and getting P1 with 15 thousandths of a second as well. So it's getting close at the top.
Absolutely, and now we see our second AMG out on track, the purple and gold livery, the number 187 car. This is currently being piloted by Mark Press as he goes to take his lap here. Just to look at our last lap, that's now our pole sitting lap, that was only 50 hundredths of a second. That is dang close. And a purple sector 2, but now our purple sectors are shared among 3 cars. Sector 1, the fastest was Dan Bernard in the 177. That was the Aston Martin. Our pole sitter now holds the Sector 2 purple time of 32.472 in the 402. And Mike Berdakis has the Sector 3 best time, the 147 car. So originally it was shared universally by the number 24 car, but that's now gotten divided out. Another thing of note to discuss with the AMG, I mean, when you and I were driving it, you and I were driving together out here on track, and I believe it was the Lamborghini I was driving, and coming out of coming out of Ravazza, you just legged me. You didn't even have to worry about your exit. And that's what's so great about these cars is, yes, they are BOP'd. Yes, they are supposed to be the same speed, but they're not making the same speed everywhere. Because if they were making the same speed everywhere, it would be it'd be Formula One. It'd be a 200-mile-an-hour parade. But what's great about the way that these cars are set up, and Nick, please do chime in if you have something to add to this, is they all make speed in different places. The high downforce, high speed corners, I expect to see the Ferraris absolutely dominate. The straights, I see the Aston Martins and the AMGs absolutely flying. And as I say that, a 141.117 fastest lap on the board and takes back the Sector 1 and Sector 3 purple times. So that was one heck of a lap from the 187 Mark Press. Very, very well done, sir. As we now see Nico Cosima in the second of our Lamborghinis, number 127, as he enters the second corner here of Tamburello chicane.
Now we're back. Now we're down to the second to last of the silver drivers. We only have one more to go, but yeah, just to tap into our little bit talk before, just to look at it. Look at the Bentley. If people haven't driven it or haven't seen it, search for the Bentley Continental GT3. That is, the original boat.
The Boatley.
And when you look at it, it's a Boatley. But if you look at it, that car shouldn't be allowed to drive as fast as it did, just through pure physics. It was actually the lightest of the GT3s, which was like, why? Because it's the biggest of the GT3s as well. So, but yeah, that's the beauty about this series. Also, what we can see, because we have the delta time, where the Mercedes have actually really been fast is through the second sector, where you have to brake downhill as well. So especially the braking zones, they have been dominating. Going straight and braking, that's the Mercedes.
And it does make sense with an engine that weighs so much in the front there, that monstrous V8 in the front growling away. It makes perfect sense why they're so fast, where they're so fast, as we see the 127 here about to finish his lap. Will he be able to take pole? Not quite. That's going to be P4 for the 127 of Nico Kashima as he goes ahead and hops off track and makes room for our final silver driver of the Superpole session here. This is the 297, yet another Aston Martin, so actually quite a good variety, I would say, in the top 10 here for the Superpole session, and once again goes back to that topic of conversation we've been having of just how good Assetto Corsa Competizione is at representing the immense variety that we are blessed with in the GT3 category. And on that topic, since we do have a little bit of extra time here just watching this last lap, I do want to actually ask the question, what is your opinion on GT3s at Le Mans instead of the GTE class?
Oh, that's an interesting topic. Well, the thing is that the GT3s are, there's more variety. They have said now that they will limit to 2 cars per manufacturer. But there's a lot more variety. They're gonna be faster down at Le Mans, or just as fast. It's the same type of car, so it's a lot cheaper. So in that sense, for me, it doesn't really make that big of a difference if you just see him going through the chicane here. Really nice from Christian in the 297 SimSports car. It's gonna be great. I don't think we will see a huge change because GTs around Le Mans has just provided us with great racing, and GT3s provide us with amazing racing. So we will get amazing, great racing at Le Mans.
Absolutely, and now our final silver driver going to come down the Bassa Straight and hugging that wall, something you mentioned before. Not quite able to get pole, but he does actually take the fastest Sector 2 time, so that is going to be 6th place for the 297 car as our first now pro driver here, our Tier 1 driver. You can see him absolutely shaking the car around to get some heat in those front tires. The number 690 car, the gold and blue striped vehicle, currently piloted by Jedemias. That's close enough.
I think.
This is what I get for being American. This is my punishment. I can't speak.
Yeah, well, I can't either, and I'm European.
From now on, I will call him Bob Smith.
Bob Smith.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Excellent.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Or actually, if I'm gonna stick to his name, I'll call him Jerry.
Jerry. Fair game. But yeah, if we look at the tower up there, you guys can see that the 2 Mercedes, the 187 and the 402, are gonna be P1, P2, and then the Ferrari and P3 in the silver car, and those are the Tier 2 guys. So now what we're seeing here are the guys that we will be commentating on this evening's race, 9-hour race. These are the pro drivers. These are Tier 1 drivers, and they should be ahead, but they might not be because a lot of the cars are close. But let's see him getting into the chicane here, getting all of the curb on the outside, and just really hammering down on those 2 curves there, and that looked night and day. Let's see how well this lap is actually gonna be.
It's gonna look like a good one, absolutely. And I will say something interesting that I've just actually noticed is that out of all of our Tier 2 drivers, not a single Porsche, and yet we have 3 coming up from the next group of cars. Actually, let me double check if that's...
Get a pole position.
Oh, and by quite a gap. By quite a gap there. What was the delta on that? Almost half a second. The gap on that one, or actually just over a second. I should half a second rather. So we now look at Pavlo Polachuk, currently in the number 15. This is our I believe 4th Mercedes out on track in the. I gotta say, even without a livery, that carbon fiber just looks great on that car, doesn't it?
Yeah. And this is the Team Balls UK guys, in the P15 here. It's gonna be interesting to see if they can, provide and keep up with the other Mercedes up there. We have seen, as I predicted, I'm just saying at the moment, Mercedes being strong around here, And it is. And with the top speed that we have, at least in our testing scene, you know, people have setups for this. We have just used normal ones because we have no idea what we're doing. You know, it was so strong down the straights that even though you might be slower through some of these parts, you're just so far ahead that you know they can't catch you on the straights. See how it takes
Does
the
your
chicane?
does your shoulder hurt, Nick, from patting yourself?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. That's
But
okay.
but but it,
You have 9 hours for that.
yeah, it does. But it will be hurting from you know carrying you.
Yes,
Throughout this,
naturally.
yeah. You know, and you are American as well, so that will be a little bit more. You know, that's 20 kilos. You know,
Oh
kilo
yeah,
is the correct thing to say. You know.
well, I have to have my McDonald's in the back of the car. And
Super.
as we take away from our witty banter a little bit here, second place for the number 15 car there. Also, just a absolutely staggering lap as our first Porsche out on track now. Fantastics to see, pun intended, the orange, white, and blue Fanta car.
Yeah.
And wow, if that does not sound good coming out of Ravazza, that Porsche, the flat 6 in the rear end of the 992 GT3R. And, yep, getting an in-car view now here. You can see heading into turn 1 here. Hard onto the brakes. Wow, they are braking late there. Going down into third gear. Now the hard left going through, headed to Villeneuve chicane. This car is especially spicy on the brakes. You can see just how sideways it is going through that chicane. And man, is this car fast on a lap, I gotta say. The only thing I would say when driving this car is it's a little bit unstable on the brakes, so I could certainly see that if there is an incident ahead, this car could definitely be one that we might, you know, might wince a little bit extra if we see something happening in front of it, because you just don't know what's going to happen when you slam on the brakes, especially when you've got a raging flat 6 behind you trying to overtake you at all times. Man, that looks really good there through Aqua Minerale. The question here is going to be, can he nail Variante Alta heading into turn 14 here? Going to throw it to the right-hand side. Can it take the curbs? It does take the curbs quite well. A little bit of counter steer here coming out of the corner, so a little bit of wiggle. Not quite perfect, but it does look like a great lap so far for Linham Anderson in the 117. Can I brake?
Yeah.
Get it nice and slowed down here.
Ooh, it looks tidy. It looks. Oh, but he's just wrestling that car, and that's just how the Porsche drives. Let's see how it goes. Ooh, a bit slower than the Mercedes, but it looked like a fantastic lap from the Fanta car there.
Yes, very well done indeed. And now our second Porsche here. We will stop hurting the viewers with our horrible puns. But now the number 22 car out on track. This is, which driver is this? This is Luka Zic in the number 22 car. So that is our second of the Porsches. This very simple but very elegant livery. I actually quite like it. With the just simple accents and a stripe down the middle. Nothing too crazy.
It's beautiful. It definitely looks beautiful out there, and the Porsche just is an elegant car. It's been a big while that this is the new Porsche to the service. Porsche is getting it's getting out there to be a bit of a fat boy as well. I don't think I've ever seen a Porsche this wide, especially as a GT3. It is massive. The engine sounds amazing. The engine is rear engined, as rear as it can be. For a Porsche, I see definitely did not get out of the bottom there very well. So he will have lost a lot of time going into the chicane. Oh, but yeah, that Porsche is rear engined and everything else is mid to front engined. I think a Porsche driver and a Porsche mechanic will say that a Ferrari is front engined at the moment.
By comparison, when you have when you have your engine so far back it's basically hanging out the bumper, then you know it is truly a Porsche. And like you mentioned, a little bit of trouble coming out of turns 12 and 13 in the Aquamena Rally for the 22 car there. Now the question is going to be exactly how will that affect his lap. He comes across the line. Ooh, slow lap there. 12th position, and that I believe is actually our slowest lap so far. Let me actually verify that. No,
we have the
third slowest there. So not a good lap, especially after that big moment coming out of Aquamena Rally. But it should be noted that that does only bump him down to the bottom of the white-colored drivers on the left-hand side of your screen. That being our Tier 1 group. We see another AMG Mercedes out on track now. That is Sergio Piperata currently driving that car as he comes out of the Tamburello chicane. Now heading into Villeneuve once again. And man, that was quite a lot of curve, nearly touching the grass on the inside of the corner there. Quite interesting line choice there. Very aggressive, but can't quite blame him for that. Something interesting of note as well is as this session goes along, the track started to rubber in a little bit. It's gotten hot. It is very hot out there on track right now. So I think some of these drivers that are going last in the group may have a slight advantage. I won't say a massive one, but as the rubber starts to build up on the track, you got some of those big rubber chunks, the big marbles to the outside of the line that you can see kind of towards the left 1/3 of your screen there in that shot. That is certainly something of note as the race goes on. Those are only going to continue building up and building up. And when you have a big moment like our last driver, Luca, when you have a big moment like that, you end up in the marbles. You end up getting your tires cold. You end up getting all that junk on your tires, and it becomes really hard to recover, especially when you're going for a fast lap. So it's going to be important for these drivers as we approach a 9-hour endurance race that they make sure that they are very mindful of their tires. As we see Sergio goes across the line for P5 with a 141.327. But to continue that point I was making, just trying to basically make sure that these drivers are mindful of those tires and take their time to get them warmed back up, cleaned back off before trying to attack again, or you're going to find yourself in a wall very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. It's like driving on ice out there. You have no grip once you start to get the pickups, and once you have that, you don't have an even surface of the tires, and you might lock up or go into the gravel, and then you will have even worse tires. So that's not what you want to see. As we see the M2 competition car here is he's actually having he has the correct number, but that's normally a number that we see on a Porsche, the number 911. It's weird to say the number 911 Aston Martin.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't really ring that well, so that's
a nice livery though Vasily's rocking here.
Yeah, it definitely is. I saw from a little bit ago in the chat, and people, I will have to have to be nice again, because we are talking about racing and not everything else. That the Ferrari have gotten 15 kilograms in it, because it was able to go. I think I read that they were talking about almost 9 laps longer than everything else. So it has gotten a bit of a BOP to kind of rail them back in. Otherwise, they were talking about over the 9 hours that would actually be able to skip a whole pit stop. So we are in AOR actually also looking at BOPing a little bit as well, just to get it correctly. Let's see where he will get it. Oh, the Aston Martin just pops in at P3 overall, but that Mercedes at the top, that's a strong lap it has put out.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. As we see now the BMW, look at this livery. Now we're getting into some exciting ones with the BMW M4 about to come across the line. The Your Way plastered along the side, the number 7 car. And it should be definitely taken into account just how much time and effort these drivers have put in I mean, when you talk about an endurance race like this, you're talking about hours of practice, personal time, and especially when a lot of us have jobs, school, and otherwise to take care of, it really should be a round of applause to these drivers for, I mean, of course, being dedicated to wanting to, be out here. We're all passionate motorsports fans, and also a big shout out to all of our AOR stewards, all of our organizers for putting this event together, because without their efforts and putting up tons of sessions and hosting said sessions, without their efforts, we would not be here today. So a huge shout out to Apex Online Racing and the entire stewarding team. We are blessed to have some live stewarding in today's race for the Tier 1 race. I don't actually recall if Tier 2 will have live stewarding, but in any case, that certainly adds another level of realism and excitement to it, and so we send our immense thanks to them, as, wow, that BMW is hard on the curbs and just doesn't even care, just soaks it up like it's nothing.
Yeah, as Matteo saying, the number 7 Your Way Racing, beautiful looking BMW out there, just really attacks everything. Interesting to see if he has gotten an off track there, but yeah, that was incredible. Also, just shout out to our coordinators, people behind the scenes getting everything working, and he's getting into P3 there, so there's a bit of a gap. They can't really seem to catch the number 690 Mercedes at the top there, but they will definitely try. And here's the team Shumiskin, number 92, the last of our Porsches. Let's see if he can get up there and maybe irritate the Mercedes a little bit.
Absolutely, and I mean, nobody has even touched those purple sector times by our good friend Jerry. We also do apologize. Nick and I are a little bit rusty up here in the booth. It's been, what has it been, two years since the last time we've done or maybe about a year since the last time we did a broadcast together, but good to be back, and we thank the AOR team for having us back. As we see, coming out of Tosa, turn 7, is the number 92 Porsche. Another thing to note about the Porsche that I find rather interesting is, for being a rear-engine car, in the center of the corner, it is really quite stable. So when we talk about, a single lap, I think the Porsche is definitely at a major advantage. However, over the course of 9 hours, that's a little bit wide there. Yeah, that's a little bit of a moment for Nigel Terran in the 92. Oh, quite a lot of curb there for the Porsche, but I mean, he is absolutely on it. He is flying in this lap, or at least really pushing it hard. Now heading in, you can see how much the rear end unloads, and man, he is just attacking. Maybe even gotten to the dirt a little bit on the right hand side there.
But you're rotating the car by using the throttle, so you're just always pushing the throttle down, with this car, and you're just balancing it when you're braking. But at P7, so not the greatest lap for him, but I think he will be fine with that, and they will definitely be pushing to get up and fighting with the top guys.
For sure. As we now change our attention to our 19th driver in the session, this is the number 97 car, currently piloted by, who's currently in charge of this car, Andreas Marquez. He is going to come across the line to green. Yeah, that is something interesting of note. Yeah, we had a couple of teams actually who were invited to this session, to this Superpole session, who did not accept that invitation, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, actually does result in some license points for the team. And a penalty and a little bit of a slap on the wrist from the stewards to accept but not show up. So that is certainly going to be a topic of discussion, and certainly having live stewarding does add another layer of interest to the session, given that we don't typically get to see we don't typically get to see that in online races. Certainly not a horribly common. Oh, that's wide. Is that going to be an invalidated lap there for the 97? That was very wide, very close there in Piratella. The question is going to be, is that going to invalidate the lap? He's still continuing on board now.
He's definitely fighting that BMW throughout the corners. Let's just see how it gets through the gate. Oh, a lot of curve there. That looks beautiful, beautiful. He's definitely pushing out there, and of course he will. He's looking to try and see if he can get that pole time. But what we have seen here is that, especially from the times that we've been given from the coordinators, the lap times are a little bit slower. Nerves might be getting in the way. Temperatures might be different from what we have seen before. But let's see if Andres is getting on. He's hogging the inside here. Let's see how it's gonna be. P3.
So and a fastest sector one. That was a great lap.
Yeah, so that's gonna be Mercedes, Porsche, BMW, Aston Martin, Mercedes. So in the top 6, we only have one car that's not front engined.
That
just
is
to provide a little bit
of insight there, yeah.
Yeah.
So we now can go ahead and actually go through our results here before we do conduct a couple of interviews. Ready to go. So, yes, we have received confirmation that the missing Superpole is a 3 license plate penalty for the team. But now to go ahead and go through our qualifying here, we'll start off with our Tier 2 results. Why don't we? So, Tier 2, it is actually a very impressive lap from the number 187 Mercedes. We, on the topic of discussion of front engines cars, a great job there by Mark Press. What a lap it was. Actually out-qualified 3 of our Tier 1 drivers, so a great job he did there. Then in second position, yet another Mercedes in the Tier 2 class. That's the 402 car. That's followed closely by the only Ferrari in this session, who held pole for quite a time. That's the number 24 car. After that, it's going to be the Lamborghini, followed by 2 Aston Martins. I'll move along quickly here since the session is moving along here. That is the 117, followed by the 297, and the 88 Audi. Then we see our BMW, and then 1 Aston Martin down at the bottom of the field. Everybody leaving so quickly, hurting the data. But that is going to conclude our session for Superpole here. So we're going to go ahead and interview a couple of drivers. Let's see if we have anybody here. Actually, we have the driver of the number 24. Yeah, let's bring Carlo in here. Carlo, we want to welcome you to the AOR Broadcast Center. Go ahead and introduce yourself, introduce your team, and tell us a little bit about what happened in the session.
Hello, I am Carlo, also known as Charles Phillips. I am from Team Raging Alcoholics, number 340 machine, BMW, of course. So today we first participated in Superpole for the first time ever. So it was quite exciting, but had an unfortunate moment at Acqua Minerali, which ended in track cut. So we unfortunately did not set a valid time, but I think it was a half decent session from everybody else. So looking forward to the race.
So we did see that big moment in Acqua Minerali. What do you think it was? A setup thing? Was it an aspect of the car? What do you think was the leading component that led to such a difficult part of the track that ended up invalidating the lap?
Cut too much to the inside on the entry. Then we considered do we just continue the lap or do we just go off? And we just decided to continue and just finish the lap because why not?
Yeah, great. And it how is that BMW to drive? Because we have seen some of them being a handful and some of them being really stable around there. Are you guys ready for the 9 hours? Is the car set up for that, or is it been more one lap pace for you?
I think the car feels very consistent, very stable to drive. It's a very interesting car to set up because it's front engine, quite different from a lot of the cars in the game. So I think it depends on how you set up the car because you can have it very snappy, you can have it very understeer. You just have to find the balance or between everything, you know.
Mm. Yeah, great.
Well, we thank you for joining us in the broadcast booth, and we hope that you're sober enough to complete 9 hours with the rest of your team in just a few minutes' time.
Yeah, I also hope I will be sober enough in an hour when the race starts. So, gonna go crack open a beer and see you guys later.
Cheers.
See you guys. All right, I think the next guy will be Richard, who I will drag up here.
All right, now next into the broadcast booth, we welcome our was our pole sitter for quite a long time in the number 24 Ferrari, the driver of the number 24 Ferrari. Go ahead and introduce yourself, introduce your team, and tell us about your lap.
So yeah, I'm from I'm our racing team. I'm racing with a Ferrari, and about the lap was pretty stressful as it's like the first time racing like these endurance stylish races. It's my like first time doing Superpole things, so it's quite new things to me. But it was really nice, and the feeling is quite good that I'm P3 with not the best lap I can do, but yeah, I'm pretty happy.
So you were the only Ferrari in that Super Bowl session. Describe the car to us and what some of the upsides and downsides are of it. What makes it such a challenging car to drive?
Uh, it's like it's not that challenging as Lambo or any other cars. It's uh, like a beginner stylish car. If you're like beginner, you can like drive it and it's really safe. It's quite understeery and in I don't like it kinda a bit. I'm like oversteery setup. I like more than understeery. You know. I like that the car is pretty nervous and I can control it and it's pretty nice feeling that the car is alive. You know. So yeah, we'll see how the race. How in the race Ferrari will fail and yeah.
Well, we congratulate you on your P3 effort and we wish you the best of luck.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so let's see. I don't know who this is, but he on here he's named Unborn. So let's see how this.
Hello and welcome to the AOR broadcast booth. Go ahead and introduce yourself, introduce your car, and tell us about the session for you.
Yeah, so my name is Chrisers. I drive for 297 Sim Sports. We did qualify P1 in the qualifyings, but yeah, I don't know what happened in this session. Kind of joined the server, started to drive, and I'm telling the guys like I don't know what's happening, but there is no grip at all. So also regarding Aston, like it likes to understeer. It doesn't rotate as well as the other cars, so we kind of had a little bit of struggle, but yeah, we kind of made the decision not to push for like a good lap, rather just take it safe. We're overall satisfied with even with the P6 because the race is pretty long and we are kind of confident about our race pace. So I guess we'll let the race do the talking.
What do you think was probably the biggest contributing factor to that lack of grip? Do you reckon it was just a change of track condition, a setup issue, the car itself?
If, to be honest, could be the track or maybe some changes in the server. Because even when practicing, we kind of did notice some grip changes between switching some servers, and yeah, it's hard to tell because when we developed the setup, we made it. It felt fine. We had a good rotation out of the car, good grip. It was overall like it was a nervous, but at the same time like a stable setup, and it felt fine. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's really hard to point like a precise reason why the grip change happened so much. But you know, it's racing, it happens, and we're just gonna take what we got and move on. You know.
Do you guys have a car that is set up for the race, or because it is a difficult track to overtake on? How is the Aston on the tires? Are you feeling comfortable that you can get up there, even though it sounds like you're not too happy about your qualifying position?
Yeah. As we all know, the Aston is pretty good for endurance races. So we also did some tests, and the tire wear was it was decent. So we are feeling pretty confident about even if we have to do a double stint, and also on previous tracks by double stinting, we kind of had a pretty good tire wear. So yeah, we are overall we are kind of. Happy with the setup, happy with the car, and we know that the car can be a really good car, especially in endurance races. So we're not really kind of we're not getting sad about the Superpole result. And yeah, because we know other cars like the new Ferraris are gonna struggle with tires later on in the race. So we're just kind of gonna try to make do it safe, race clean, keep out of some unwanted problems, damages. Of
Yeah.
course, also from the track warnings, because it's especially when you're pushing the car, it's really easy to get track warnings in Imola. So got to keep clean out of these problems and just manage the tires, and I feel like we should do pretty well.
All right. Well, we thank you for joining us, and we wish you the best of luck in the race upcoming.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have two more guys.
Yeah. So next into the AOR box is Mr. Press, our, I believe, pole sitter in the tier 2 group. So introduce yourself, introduce your car, and tell us about your lap.
Hey, good day. Thanks for the invitation. Mark Press from the Black Mamba sim racing team, starting in Split 2. I actually got pole. It's always tough in these sessions with just one lap. So if you invalidate it somewhere, well, it's quite easy in Imola. You're starting at the back of the grid in exclamation marks, but you started not there where you want to start. But I got it done. The gap was bigger than I thought it would be from the pre-Superpole quali times, but I'm happy with it. But it's a long race. The race won't be won in qualifying, won't be won in turn 1. It's a tough track to overtake, and the Mercedes-Benz is quite slippery and straight, so looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Actually, on that topic, I wanted to ask, you had one heck of a lap. It was an absolute banger of a lap, out qualifying 2 or 3, I believe, of our tier 1 drivers. What do you think made the difference for you? Was it just one of those laps that you just hit on, or do you think it really came down to the amount of practice and time that you put into practicing for this session?
So practice is something I don't do very much. So it was just, of course, I practiced 30 minutes before the session and did the outlap, hot lap, outlap, hot lap rhythm, and never got below 141.5. I was like, okay. So if the other guys can get in touch with the times, it won't be P3 or P4 what we got. But I just connected. So. With no delta and everything, I came out of the last corner and said, okay, could be 140 in the middle somewhere, maybe provisional pole, but in the end, the 441, a bit surprised, but like I said before, happy with the lap.
Well, it was one heck of a lap. We congratulate you on your pole, and we wish you and your team the best of luck in the race in about an hour's time.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, let's do one more. All right, and we welcome our last guest to the AOR broadcast booth. Go ahead and introduce yourself, introduce your team, and tell us about your lap.
So, hello, I'm from AOR Endurance Racing. It's tier 1. And yeah. Like like we won Superpole. I would want to say thank you for all team, and congratulations to other other teams on Superpole.
Well, so we'd like to ask, talk us
Yeah.
through your lap. Talk us through what gave you, first of all, such a fast lap, and also what you think are going to be kind of the keys to translating that speed in the Superpole session to speed in the race.
Yeah, I mean the key was that we starting Superpole session the first. There's no time for tier one, yeah, and there's no pressure. Like for other guys who see already set the time, and I think that was a key. And for race, I think it would be nice if at some point we have changeable conditions. That the rain would be awesome for us because as the rule, this championship is limited tire set, so the rain will be awesome for us.
Well,
And yeah, I think we got a pace overall in race, but I think it's a little bit slower than quality. But yeah, it's all good.
well, we thank you for joining us here in the broadcast booth.
Yeah.
We congratulate you on your lap and wish you
Yeah,
and your
thank you.
team the best of luck in the race coming up.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Well, Nick, as we close out this session, having basically crowned our top 10 qualifying positions for both sessions, what do you take away from this session? Is there any... Yeah, I mean, obviously, being on the pole is great. You're maybe out of the bee's nest, the beehive, in the center of the pack. But other than that, do you think there's anything to really take away from this session that is of particular note?
First of all, that I was correct, with the Mercedes being on top and being strongest. But no, that the front end car seems to be fastest around here for the moment. We do know that the temperature is gonna change when we get into the actual race. Drivers found that there was less grip than they thought. The lap times were slower than we thought they were gonna be. Getting into the race, tire wear is gonna be key. It's gonna be interesting. They are not, as we just heard, they have a limited amount of tires, so they need to be careful on tires as well. Forecast is gonna be like, I think it's 10% chance of rain, so I think it's gonna be a dry one out there. In the Italian sun. So it's gonna be interesting to see, and tires could heat up too much. Let's see if the mid-engine cars can be better on tires and better in the race. That is to be seen. So yeah, that's what I take with here.
Absolutely, and as we do remind those watching, we have our race session in just about an hour's time. That is at 11 a.m. UTC or GMT, if you're still used to that. So we welcome you to please join us for that session. We'll be broadcasting the Tier 1 race, despite this being a combined session for Tier 1 and Tier 2 Superpole. Once again, we'd like to send our thanks to the AOR team. We'd like to thank you for joining us, and on behalf of myself, Brayden Hill, and my co-commentator Nick Domino, we thank you for joining us for this session, and we look forward to seeing you in about an hour's time.
Mammoth.